Hey everybody, and welcome to DraftKings. I'm Taran Atkins, and this is Euro 2016. It's been a month of absolute brilliant football, in my opinion, but we're coming to the end. So the question is, who is your 8-man roster of the whole tournament? I'm going to be asking the panel. We've got Andy Davis, Edo and Jamie Hanks. Guys, I'm going to start with goalkeepers. Edo, tell me, who is your goalkeeper of this tournament?
Gianluigi Buffon. I'm afraid to say the draw compromises his chances of making it to the semis, which would have made this choice even easier to make. But he's been spectacular, rarely any mistakes. And it's so telling about Buffon at this age is that back in 99, in 2005, in 2010, you'd have said, who are the top 3 goalkeepers in the world? His name would always be there. And I think that says a lot about who he is. The irony is that against Germany, he had a great game on penalties, in fact. But he lost, just like when Juve played Milan in that Champions League final. He made 2 saves and lost. Yeah, when Italy beat France in 2006, I believe Trezeguet hit the bar and Italy won. But yeah, he showed progress as well from a penalty saving perspective because he was really good. He was choosing his direction and just going for it. And he made an amazing save against Spain, PK. He made one sort of questionable decision, end of the half towards Spain. He made a pretty dodgy clearance that could have cost Italy. But beyond that, he was solid. He was great against Belgium. He was yelling at his defenders like there was no tomorrow. I think he's in there.
I love that. You were like a human Wikipedia page there for
Sorry.
right into the histrionics of the man's career. But nonetheless, you're quite right. He had a great tournament. Andy Davis, who would be your goalkeeper? You notoriously don't like goalkeepers. We know this.
Still going on.
The world is bored of hearing it. It's the last time I'll ever mention it. But has this tournament turned around your opinion of goalkeepers? How have they been for you?
Great. Yeah, I love him. And the best one by far, Joe Hart. He's been.
Should we all just lean in?
No, absolutely not. For me, Fabianski has been great. He wasn't even the first choice at the start of the tournament. Then he got in. He only conceded 2 goals, and both of those goals were absolute screamers from Sanchez and Shaqiri. So yeah, my choice is definitely Lucas Fabianski. Yeah, bit of an underdog. So I'm happy for him. And he no longer plays for Arsenal, which is even better reason to have him in my team. So yeah, Lucas Fabianski for me, I have no real knowledge of his history.
Arsenal Swansea.
Yeah, he plays for Swansea. There we are. Lucas Fabianski, so there we go.
All right, okay, 2 interesting choices. Are we going diverse here? Jamie, who is your choice?
No, not particularly diverse. I've gone for Rui Patricio of Portugal just because I think if you take out the game against Hungary when he let in 3 goals, he's been really solid. I don't think a lot of people have heard of him coming into this tournament, and he's done very well on DraftKings because Portugal, although they don't win, they invariably keep clean sheets a lot. He makes a few saves, and plus he's in the final. Like, we need a keeper on here who's actually in the final, and I think he's far more busy than Hugo Lloris, who seems to make no saves. He made one very good one last night, Lloris, but apart from that, he's kind of not many teams have got shots in against France. The goals they conceded were penalties up until the Iceland game.
It would be fair to say that Lloris has only faced one strong team.
Well, that's what I was about to say. I didn't want to be too disrespectful to the teams they played in the lead up to it, but they did play their knockout teams that they played were Ireland, Iceland, and then Germany. And in the group they had Albania, Romania, and a Switzerland side who didn't look good.
Whoa, Edo's here. Let's leave
Albania out. Romania and Switzerland. An Eastern European country, Edo. I'm not sure if you've heard of them. Albania.
Love those guys.
Can I just make a special mention to Mr. McGovern for the performance, the goalkeeping performance of the tournament, in his performance against Germany. That was the best goalkeeping performance of the tournament for me.
I mean, if we're going to decide on one between us, who's it going to be? Because I think I'd give my vote to Fabianski, just because I think in terms of scoring DraftKings points,
he's got the most points, isn't he? I'd say Fabianski.
And he just made so many saves, and as you say, they only conceded.
Yes, but you have made an interesting observation there that, yes, with the Portuguese goalkeeper, he is still relevant. He's actually made it away from the final. And, they wasn't supposed to beat Croatia, they weren't supposed to beat Poland, and yet here they are. But you're quite right, we need to decide, guys. There's 3 goalkeepers in front of the table. We've got 2 for Fabianski. Are you going to throw a spanner in the works?
Are you staying with Fabianski?
Yeah, I'll stay with Fabianski.
Fabianski and Buffon are there. I mean, they're both really good choices. They both have a good clean sheet factor as well, actually, because Fabianski in the groups 100%. And Buffon would have given you a clean sheet in that game against Spain, which I believe you went for actually when we picked our teams.
Yes, I did, yes.
I did not. And congrats.
20 points in that game.
20 points in that
Very,
game.
very good.
He did rather well, but okay, I'm gonna make a
Fabianski.
judgment here. I'm gonna go with Fabianski. I think that's a worthy choice, and I thought we put in some blinding performances. Andy Davis takes into defenders. Historically, you don't like those guys either. How have they done for you this year?
I've done all right. My first, I'm going to mention a couple. My first guy is Ben Davis of Tottenham. And the other country he plays for as well, Wales, I think it is. What I've liked about Ben Davis is because he plays on the left-hand side of a 3 for Wales. So he's more of a central defender, and I think that's his best position. It's unfortunate he's not going to get a chance to play in that position for Spurs because he's always kind of been the alternative to Danny Rose. And he doesn't quite have the marauding pace that Danny Rose has at getting forward. But slightly further in, where he's a very disciplined player, and I think it's been a revelation in that position for Wales. So Ben Davis is the first one for me. And then alongside him, I would go for Rodriguez of Switzerland. I couldn't stand Switzerland the entire tournament. I thought they were awful. For me, they were my Austria for you. I just couldn't get on board with them. I thought they were arse. But he's really good, isn't he? He scored loads of points. I picked him a lot, and he scored me bundles of points. Gets forward. Lots of shots as well as a fullback. Likes getting lots of shots in, which is really good for DraftKings points as well for a fullback. So I would have those two in my team. Thoughts, guys?
Oh well, let's just find out your choices first. Jamie, who would be your two?
I really like the Rodriguez choice, not so much the Davies one because he doesn't concede, doesn't get enough points for me on DraftKings. But yeah, Dario Serna he's the number one. He's the best defender on DraftKings. Period. There's no better defender than him.
Crikey, what was his?
It was really
value?
expensive. It was like 6,500.
Yeah, he's the only
yeah.
defender.
Sevens, right?
He's the only defender I've ever seen above 7,000 on DraftKings because he never doesn't score you. He'll get at least double. I think you'd be disappointed with Serna if his value's that high if he doesn't get you at least 15 or 16 points because he takes all the set pieces. He gets up and down. He's basically a winger playing a fullback, and I mean, even though Croatia didn't get that far, his play in this tournament was so good, especially when you consider that his father died in the group after the first group game. Didn't affect him at all, and he drove him on.
Maybe he didn't like his dad.
Well, that's it. I was thinking similarly. Maybe he's a sociopath. We have no idea.
Possibly, yeah. I don't want to.
I've got to say though, at this point, value is a big thing for DraftKings. Although I do agree, on the pitch, it was a phenomenal, some phenomenal performances by Serna, but didn't go as far into the tournament as we'd have liked, and he cost an awful lot of money. Edo, your defenders, please.
I'm going with Leonardo Bonucci, staying with the Italian theme, but he would have got you a goal and an assist. That wonderful assist to Giaccherini against Belgium, the goal against Germany, even though he missed a penalty later, and he used the same kind of run-up, actually. So questions about that, but he was amazing. He has that really questionable motivator. And it's a good job that motivators aren't really doctors, because if Bonucci's motivator was part of some sort of, like, had he registered or whatever, I would immediately get rid of the guy, because some of the methods he used to push Bonucci.
What is this?
Bonucci has this motivator, fired him, then got him back before the tournament, and all of a sudden he's firing on all cylinders, and he's completely... But no, I love how he plays. Italy's defence was rock solid. He's a brilliant... Oh, sorry, I assume...
images of Mr. Motivator.
Yeah, me too.
I'm loving the breakdown of your choices, actually. We've got a dead parent of one defender here, and we've got a
with a
sports
motivator.
psychologist.
Kind of a
Yeah,
parent
kind of.
one there.
Insane stuff. I mean, Hanoi Hilton material, really. So congratulations, Leonardo. And
Edo, please, your second choice.
second choice. Have we gone with Bakary Sagna of France? I thought that he improved throughout the tournament. What was good about him was that France didn't require a heck of a lot from their fullbacks. Their midfield and attack could do it without them. Evra was quite passive, for example, in attack. But Sagna got better as the tournament went along. He would have always been one of the more expensive players, but I think he justified it during the knockout stages.
I think so too. I mean, he's never been a defender I particularly really cared for in his career at Arsenal and then on to Man City, but he's been very impressive this tournament. So, gentlemen, I've heard your...
There's one other I think we need
I've got
to mention to Hummels of Germany as well. We should mention him.
Yeah, they did. They missed him so much last night against France.
Oh, yeah.
You could see there was a gaping, especially when Boateng went off. That was when it kind of went to pieces, because I think you could see... I think Germany had the most clean-cut chances in that game and just didn't convert any of them. And if they had, and it had gone to 1-1, and they'd had Hummels and Boateng in the middle there, they may not have conceded that second goal.
Very fair point. And of course, he didn't make the first game either. And he was
injured in the first game and then suspended for the final game. So,
too bad for Germany there. So, guys, can we make a decision?
I'm going to say Cerner for one of the spots. Just his point scoring is so just reliable.
I agree with Cerner, and I would add Rodriguez to that. Just because of his point scoring.
I take Rodriguez over Bonucci for the consistent point scoring.
Yeah.
You take Rodriguez over
And the other one,
Bonucci.
Bonucci. Would just if we're talking value, as you said earlier,
It would cost you nothing.
Bonucci's so much cheaper than Rodriguez.
Oh, he
You
was
see, the thing for me, it was like I always used to pick Italian defenders in the earlier rounds solely because I could spend more money later on. So if you're looking to save money, you'd get an Italian defender, and it was with Bellucci or Chiellini, one of the two. But if we're going for the best, it's got to be Rodriguez.
I think that's what we're going for.
Yeah, but you wouldn't, you'd worry if they were actually in your team because
You don't know money.
you got no centre half.
All right, so we're going to say, remember, guys, we're going to come up with a utility at the end, so we're not going to get drawn too far in. So we're going to say Rodriguez and we're going to say Cerner. Those are our defenders.
Yeah.
Brilliant midfield as it is. Edo, give me some options here with the midfield.
We begin with a man I'm very enthusiastic about, Ivan Perisic of Croatia. If they'd game planned better against Portugal, they could have gone further. And he was incredible. And there were times at Inter this year where you just give him the ball, completely, should we say, anodyne situation, he would turn it into something special. And he did that for Croatia. Scored 2 goals, was involved in absolutely everything, was a sensational player. His DraftKings value just spiked because he was so good. So I think he's a cert. Amongst the others, I'm very enthusiastic about Kevin De Bruyne, even though he didn't have the greatest game against Italy. I thought that what I liked about De Bruyne in qualifying was that he could do well even when Belgium were playing badly, tactically disorganised. And against Sweden, he was carrying Belgium. Against Ireland, he was very good. He was very good against Hungary as well. I think he was let down by bad coaching more than... That's why I struggle to blame any Belgian players, except for maybe, I don't know, Fellaini and Lukaku. Beyond that, Lukaku, obviously...
Correct.
Soft targets.
Soft targets.
You are
shooting fish in a barrel, those
Yeah.
teams, isn't it?
Guys, you are talking about Lukaku, the defender, who plays
Jordan Lukaku, of course.
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
Why not? Why not?
Why not? Let's just say him. Brilliant. Okay, Jamie, please, who are you midfield?
Right, first up, I've gone Robbie Brady, Ireland. I think in terms of... I mean, you knew what you were getting with Brady when you picked him, just from the Premier League this season on DraftKings. All he does all game is run up and down the wing, cross, take set pieces, and he's added a couple of goals, which I wasn't expecting from him. I wasn't expecting him to be Ireland's top scorer at this tournament. I mean, I didn't really expect him to score more than about 1 goal anyway. And yeah, that header against Italy was a very good header. It was a very poor goalkeeping from Sirigu, but he had to be in that position, and he got into that position. And especially when he was another one. He was very good value. He was kind of hovering around 5,000. He kind of went up and down depending on what position eligibility he was on DraftKings, and they kind of settled with him as a midfielder in the end. And he was very, very good. And I think he'll probably be back in the Premier League next season. I think he'll be at Leicester as a backup or maybe somewhere else. And then alongside him as well, I've been really impressed with Ozil as the tournament's gone on. I didn't think he started off particularly well, but out of those German midfielders, he's the one that looks like he's going to make something happen. He was the one last night. Him and Kroos are the ones that are, they're the two that are going to make something happen. It's just a pity there was no one ahead of them to finish the chances. And he scored a good goal against Italy. He, I believe, got an assist as well. And he was on set pieces, so he was scoring points consistently. Plus, in that final game last night, he was very cheap. I think he was 7,700, which for him is peanuts. So I think, yeah, if we need to have players from the semi-finalists, and he's definitely one that's in there.
It's a fair point. It's interesting we say the selection of Robbie Brady because, of course, with DraftKings in the Premier League last year, he just scored a phenomenal amount of points. For someone who's got, if we're honest, limited talent.
He's a mid-table player at best, and he's playing on DraftKings. He would appear to be a player that should be playing in the Champions League.
Yeah, just another different level entirely because of his sheer endeavour. Andy Davis, your midfielders, please.
I'm going to start off with, I feel a little bit dirty saying this, but I think possibly the best midfielder in the tournament has been Aaron Ramsey. I think he's been fantastic, and he's an Arsenal player, and I can't bring myself to. But anyway, he was sorely missed against Portugal. I firmly believe if Aaron Ramsey had played against Portugal, Wales would be in the final. I think he's that important. You could just see what a limited player Andy King was when he came in to replace Aaron Ramsey, and Wales just didn't look. There was a shadow of the team that they of the team that had beaten Belgium. Yes. And as well, it was unfortunate that he wasn't there. I think there needs to be a rule change that you can maybe pick up 3 yellow cards throughout a tournament before you get a ban.
Just scratch it after the group games.
Scratch it after the quarters, yeah. I think it was a shame. It kind of robbed the tournament, robbed the semi-finals of possibly the best midfielder for my money, with the best midfielder in the tournament. And I can't believe I'm saying it because he's an Arsenal player. Anyway, I'm going to move on from that and go and have a shower. The other midfielder that needs a mention is Dimitri Payet, who started off the Dimitri Payet we knew and loved in the Premier League, worth 1 million points a game. But I don't actually think he should be in the final pair because he did fade in the knockout stages and he's not has been nearly as influential for France as he was.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you're quite right. He seemed to drag France through the group. When you consider the late performance against Albania and obviously the winner against Romania. But yes, in the knockouts, all of a sudden it seemed like he remembered that he was a very, very anonymous footballer up until last year. He sort of like seemed to turn into that guy again, the guy we never heard of, which is a shame. So that's a really interesting shout. So guys, collectively, who would be our midfield?
Worryingly, I'd go for an Arsenal pairing of Ramsey and Ozil.
I think De Bruyne has to be in there.
I'm going to slightly argue against De Bruyne that he's been inconsistent. Ozil's been consistent all the way through. Ramsey has as well, and De Bruyne never really grabs a game by the scruff of the neck.
I think I'd take De Bruyne over Ozil purely just on DraftKings points.
All right, fine, I'll drop Ozil.
Ramsey just because.
Yeah, I'll get rid of both of them if you want. Let's have Robbie Brady and Kevin.
I like Ramsey. Ramsey was. He will be one that was cheap at the beginning, and then it's just like.
I'm going to bring Edo in. Edo, jump in at any point here.
Ramsey, I think, is the most consistent, and I would have Perisic above all the others because I mean Perisic was good in all his games. Trouble is, would you have a guy who went out in the round of 16 and who didn't do much against Portugal? So that's why. Like, if it was just for group stages, I would say Perisic, but.
I'm not overwhelmed by Ozil myself, but this isn't my call. I certainly think Ramsey.
If it was the Ozil we saw against Italy, he was beyond the goal.
You've got a deciding vote. You're going for De Bruyne, I'm going for Ozil. So this is on you.
This is on you.
This is on me. Out of those two guys, I'm probably still happier with Ozil, but it's a close one.
All right, guys, we're going to have to do it. We have to do an all-Arsenal midfield. All-Arsenal midfield, guys, of Aaron Ramsey, well-deserved. Ozil, somewhat controversial. So let's go straight into Let's move into the strikers, everybody. Our favourite bit, and this should tear the room up at this point, I think, because going into the tournament, we'd have had predictions on who should be, should be a clear run of which two. But with the Euros, always the form book gets ripped up. We might have an odd surprise here to start with you, Edo. Who are your two strikers? Give us two.
We begin with a man who's very close to our hearts, Graziano Pelle.
Oh, of course.
Out of these guys, he is number 6. There are 6 attackers we're picking. He is number 6. Let's not kid around here. Scored 2 goals, looked anonymous against Sweden, which was his weak point. Zaza comes on and sets up the goal for Eder. But Pelle scored 2 key goals. Yes, they were last-minute goals, but they sealed those games. And he worked very hard in a system that required him to do a heck of a lot of work outside the box, quite deep. He was always sacrificing himself. You wouldn't expect it, knowing Graziano Pelle, knowing that, for example, at Southampton, he was arguably losing his spot to Sugar Shane Long towards the end of the season. I mean, he was injured, but, he didn't look such a certainty anymore, even though he scored 16 goals. In the tournament, he came and did everything he had to do, except, of course, for the penalty shootout against Germany. But I'm going to give credit to a guy who's got the cojones to show up and do this to Neuer, I think.
Quite possibly the worst penalty of the tournament, though, if we take Zaza's aside. And linked with Chelsea, actually, funny enough, Pelle.
Yeah, linked to Chelsea.
Obviously clearly likes him. Who else up front would you like to put forward?
And I think my other choice is going to be, I was actually very enthusiastic about how Antoine Griezmann played. I mean, everyone is at this stage, but he is God, essentially. He scores. He was decisive against Germany yesterday. He always looked incredible. And if you consider how tired he was after the season with Atletico Madrid, think back to when Diego Costa had a similar season when they made their first final. Costa was dead by the end of it, and so was Griezmann. And then Griezmann comes and does this in the tournament, whilst Costa went to Brazil and completely disappeared. Yes. I think that just shows what kind of tournament Griezmann's had, and sensational player, and mostly the most consistent maybe among France.
I think we've all fallen in love a little bit more with Antoine Griezmann. That's fair to say. Could be a foregone conclusion. Andrew,
I'm going to go for the Real Madrid pair, Ronaldo and Bale. I like Bale. I mean, yeah, he's ex-Spurs. I love him. But what has really impressed me about Bale has been just the sheer unselfishness of his play. I think perhaps he was maybe too unselfish in the semi-final against Portugal, and that possibly was, without Aaron Ramsey, that possibly was the game where Wales had to go, right, we do only have one good player, let's make everything go through Gareth Bale. Yeah, I mean, he scored the important goals for Wales. He's arguably been their player of the tournament alongside Ramsey, but yeah, he did what you expected him to do, score lots of points on DraftKings, and was very good. Ronaldo, we've seen... You see, we love him because it's so funny when things don't go his way. He's got a ridiculously long neck. He's got a massive Adam's apple. He's just... But we love him for the fact that when things don't go his way, he gets up, he gets upset, he shouts at referees, he gets preens. But that's what's so great about him, that when things don't go his way, he does something about it, and he shouts, and it seems like he has to fire himself up to get himself going. Then when he does, he scores goals like he did against Wales, that header, which was an incredible header. I mean, that was more powerful than you could kick it. It was incredible. And, they needed a performance against Hungary. He came up with a performance, and it seems that he's helped other players. I mean, he helps Portugal in a way that other teams just seem to just focus on Ronaldo, and it allows other Portuguese players, who I think we're going to be mentioning in a minute, perform. So I'm going for Cristiano Ronaldo just because he entertains me in so many different ways, and I think he's going to lift the trophy. He's going to make the final all about him.
No. We'll get to predictions, but please don't throw that one out there just yet. Someone had to mention Ronaldo quite rightly. We have seen heaven and hell from that guy this tournament. But who else? Who else other than the
I was just thinking these two. I think this is kind of the unfashionable hipster pair, these two. First up, we've got Ronaldo's teammate Nani, who I think everyone has forgotten about, but yeah, he still plays, and plays very well. He's been very good in this tournament. I even think at times he's been more important than Ronaldo up there. They're kind of playing this formation with no striker and actually making it work, where a lot of other teams, like, for example, Germany, just struggled massively without having a real centre forward, a real focal point in there. And Portugal seem to be able to do it. I think the manager needs a huge amount of credit. But Ronaldo, obviously, yes, he's the star man, but also Nani. He's been very, very good. He's scoring goals, getting assists, and he's got to move to La Liga. Let's see if he can prove himself in a league that's better than the Turkish league this season. Maybe he might get a move back to the Premier League at some point. Who knows? And then Arsenal's number 12, Olivier Giroud.
Yeah.
unbelievable.
I think apart from that game last night, I think the games leading up to it, he's been like the goals against Ireland. I don't think Griezmann scores them, and like especially the one when Giroud, that header down to Griezmann was fantastic. Like, it's not something we've been used to seeing in the Premier League from Giroud. Of course, what everyone's going to remember is that ball that he tried to chase down last night when he looked like he was running in treacle, but he's got no pace, so why should we be surprised? I mean, maybe is Arsene Wenger holding him back at Arsenal? Maybe this is the real Giroud. Maybe.
I think if we're all honest, if we're all honest, there's no great fan of Oliver Giroud around this table. But as a target man, he was used very, very effectively.
He's been very, very good. The opposition hasn't been up to scratch, and he is one of those strikers that enjoys playing against a shit team.
Exactly. An argument against your choice here is the fact that Oliver Giroud traditionally in the Premier League does well against, so should we say, lesser teams. And France haven't really played a good team up until the semis last time.
But I mean, he
fluffed his lines a few times.
Yeah, but I think he's in the top 6 strikers at the Euros. I don't know what that says about everyone else.
Yeah, scored 3 goals, right?
Well, it's been a weirdly rubbish tournament for strikers. I mean, we're not mentioning Zlatan, we're not mentioning Lewandowski, we're not mentioning Thomas Müller, we're not mentioning Harry Kane, and these were players that we felt were going to... And also we're not mentioning the Albanian fellow as well.
Which one?
What guy?
Armando Sadiku.
Yeah, that's the guy.
So there you go. And of course, we all picked these players for DraftKings week in, week out this year. And to much disappointment, guys, we're going to have to decide on a front pairing. Shall I just jump the gun here and say Griezmann's in?
Yeah,
100%. We've got Griezmann, so we've got to pick a partner for Antoine Griezmann. Andy, you've been very loud. Who would you throw in?
For me, it's between Bale and Nani. I'm just going to drop Ronaldo just because I think it would upset him, and that would be funny. I'm going to imagine that Cristiano Ronaldo is sitting there going, like that.
I would imagine he would flounce out of this studio,
Right,
out
flounce,
of the Greater London
So
area.
I'm going for Bale and Nanny, but I'm going to settle on Nanny.
You're gonna
Just,
settle on
just for, I think he's probably got more points.
But
Just.
to be fair, he's in the final, but,
Yeah.
you know, so that's not a bad shout. Edo, would you agree with Andy?
Ronaldo had a couple of games where his points total went completely off the charts. So if you wanted to win, let's say, GPP kind of tournaments and you had Ronaldo, well, you had to have him. But Nani was more consistent and would have been much cheaper. And so people clocked onto the fact that he was really good. So it kind of depends, I guess, what you want to do. But I wouldn't be against having Nani in there.
Nani scored many points, and he was great value throughout. I mean, so that's a really good shout. Jamie,
I
he
can't
doesn't
look beyond Ronaldo. It's like when he breaks out, he breaks out. You have Ronaldo
Right.
and Griezmann in there, and you win every single competition you're in. You don't win every single competition you're in with Nani in there, and you especially don't win every competition if you have Bale in there. Because I do.
No.
He's supposed to be close to the level of Ronaldo, and he hasn't performed that in terms of DraftKings points. And I thought it was especially disappointing against Ronaldo in the semi.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to take the final judgment on this. I'm going to go for a combination of value and points and consistent point scoring. I'm going to have to say Nani myself. I am going to say Nani with Griezmann.
Yeah, Jamie.
Both of the
Flounce
final.
off.
Ronaldo will have great days down the road again, I'm sure. Let Nani have his moment. So, guys, we mentioned loads of good players that haven't managed to get into this final 8-man team. So let's just have a utility player. Who would you say, out of everyone we've mentioned, who hasn't managed to get in there, should you just go for Ronaldo, perhaps? I don't know. Who do you want to go for as your utility player?
I'm going to pick one out of thin air. I'm going to go just to give Hungary a bit of love. Jack. I think he, in terms of DraftKings points, he scored incredibly well. Even though those 2 goals against Portugal, which I keep mentioning, even though they were both deflections, they both counted for 12 points. He takes the free kicks. He takes the corners. He's kind of one of those like pint-sized players that seems to just go out there and perform a bit like Shaqiri. But yeah, I wasn't. I mean, I was impressed with Hungary to a certain extent. I wasn't as impressed as you were, especially when they lost 4-0 to Belgium.
I stopped picking their players.
But yeah, I really think he played really well. I think people forget about him because of the other players that are still in the tournament. But he needs to be remembered. He was a good player.
Brilliant. Edo, utility player.
It's again a bit of Calcio bias, but Alvaro Morata I thought was sensational in the games that he had available. Unfortunately, he goes out in the round of 16, so it maybe weakens his case a little bit. But I mean, everything went for him for Spain, and he
is definitely one to watch. That's one thing for
Central
sure.
Premier League guy, and he has it all. And we saw the end of season Morata, not the guy who didn't score from I think it was October to February for Juventus.
Right. Then he went crazy, right?
Then he went crazy.
He did. And the final word, Andy Davis.
Blazikowski. He was my favourite player in the group stages. I loved him. I picked him every week, and he scored me bags of points. And he was cheap. He was the comeback king as well because he'd lost the Polish captaincy to that other fella. What was his name? Levin something.
That guy.
And he scored more points than him and played better and was a better player all round. So Blazikowski for me, the comeback king.
Right, okay, I'll make a final call. So, guys, the 8-man, all-star 8-man team, we've decided we have gone with Fabianski in goal.
Yep.
We have gone, remind me of the defenders, guys. Serna in defence, alongside...
Rodriguez.
That's right, Rodriguez. Brilliant. In our midfield, we then had...
Ramsey and Ozil.
Aaron Ramsey and Mehmet Ozil up front then. We finally decided it's the man who's going to win the Golden Boot. Obviously, it's going to be Antoine Griezmann alongside,
Nani.
surprise, Nani. And this team is not looking like the team we'd have picked at the beginning of the tournament. And a utility player, I'm just going to go for Bratislava.
Adam
I
Lang.
was going to say
I was going to say Adam Lang of Hungary because he consistently scored me 4 points a game.
Memesage.
Membershire of Albania.
Oh, let's leave Albania out of
We
it.
didn't play enough.
Let's say Brazavlowski of Poland. So everybody, who were your stars of the tournament? What was your all-time brilliant 8-man roster? That was ours. But everybody, the reason we're here, it's DraftKings. All those players had one thing in common. They got us many, many, many points. DraftKings, everybody. Welcome to the big time.